With the losing of the title, Billy goes into a big depression, gets like right into the pills and the drugs and everything like that, to sort of numb the sadness. He couldn't really see the forest for the trees in the sense that he could have then been the challenger to Bob, and then just done it all over the circuit many times over, which it seems a shame. He pretty much retires from the business. But then by 1982, he comes back to the WWF because they dropped a W in that time. And he turns up in karate pants and also looking like his own great granddad, despite the fact he was still in his 30s. He just like hadn't hit the gym in years, it seemed. And then just come with this like wacky character. What do you remember of him turning back up? Was there a personality change behind the scenes as well as on camera?
Just camera. He was pretty much the same guy, more laid back. Probably. Yeah, I don't know. After his run there, he would have hit any territory he went into. I'm sure if he could have named his length of time and his and what he wanted to do and call his own programs and call his own shots out. The NWA. I don't know if he wanted to stay loyal to WWF or what his mindset was, but he could have gone. He come from. He was with his first big break was with Vern in AWA, with him and Wahoo, and the Indian strap matches, and the Wahoo was a programming maniac. Wahoo, he never. I don't know. He did for the guys my era. He was around. He was in Houston with Paul Bosch, a great payoff. He was a big card in Houston. He booked himself, in AWA, and he'd come into Florida or Georgia. He'd have spots all around the country where Wahoo McDaniel was really meant. And he always produced. I mean, he was a hard worker, and he'd always boom, boom. He was pushing for a title shot, pushing for an Indian strap match, pushing for his gimmick matches like he did in the Carolinas with Mulligan and Flair and those guys. Those guys were making money hand over fist, and Wahoo and Mulligan and Flair and Steamboat, and they were just doing fabulous business. So that's what went through his mind. I maybe like the babyface thing had occurred to him in New York, where he could have just blown the lid off the whole city, and done that, and maybe that's caused for his depression or what I don't know, but there is potential to just continuing, or get into a promotion or, well, Billy was, he was an outlier. He was a rebel, which is pretty, he wasn't part of the NWA scene, wasn't part of the WWF scene or AWA scene. He was a talent, and he maintained the talent, not wanting to get into promotion. Because he probably could have promoted Phoenix or that, which would have been a barren area because there's no population there. And we talk about guys with ideas like Eddie Graham and Ed Francis and Dory Funk Jr. Well, they gotta think, they gotta work because they got to pull the dollars out of these Florida these smaller towns, Amarillo and those towns around West Texas and stuff. They got to pull the dollars out of El Paso. You got to pull the dollars out of those small population cities. Where a guy like Vern or Vince Senior, it doesn't require that much, gray matter to, you create a nice little angle, a couple stars, and you run your territory as such. You don't really have to hot shot it. You don't have guys running in on matches. I didn't until went to the South, went to Florida, where nobody running in on matches. That's a pretty much Southern phenomenon, to have somebody run in on your match or, get double crossed like that.
Because you mentioned him before, I mean, I've never asked you your opinion on him or, stories about him, Wahoo McDaniel. I hear the chops are real.
Oh, yeah, it's great. I ran with him. I hung with him in AWA when I first got there. I was a kid. He was, I met Mickey Mantle. The baseball player, the famous baseball player from the Yankees. I don't know if you're familiar with that.
I've heard of him, yeah.
American people, Mickey Mantle. They went to Oklahoma, and he was a fan of Wahoo's, and he was a fan. They got rid of him in New York when Namath came in because he was bigger than Namath. When the old New York Jets would play in some old broken down stadium that they were playing in Shea Stadium, I think, they go in on the tackle. Guess who? And then the whole stadium would yell Wahoo. Guess who? And then New York, and then when he got traded to the Miami Dolphins down in Florida, and he had a little wrestling background, so he got booked in the Tampa office. He was working during the football. He was doing wrestling. He was working Malenko or Eddie Gray. He was working into strap matches, and even the Briscoes. You talked to Briscoes. He was their hero growing up. He was the Bud Wilkinson, the Oklahoma Sooners. They had an undefeated football run for 2 or 3 years, and he was the focal piece. One of the focal pieces of that great football team. So yeah, Wahoo was, oh God, he doesn't go down historically as one of those Dory Funk Jr. or Ric Flair or type of guys because he was so many places. He spread himself so and he was making money everywhere. He was a wild man. He was leaving wives, a trail of wives behind him. I met him first in Minneapolis. He was married to an Indian lady, tall, beautiful lady, and he was an Indian thing. But he was just into his Indian heritage and a lot of that stuff. Yeah, good guy, talented.
Was it
could go all day long?
Was it a bit of an issue with pay in American football in like the '60s that wrestling paid better back then?
Oh yeah, probably. I wouldn't be surprised. Yeah, football. And when I got into professional wrestling, it wasn't to become a millionaire. I mean, it was these guys here. They weren't you weren't going. It was like the professional football in the '60s and '70s. Those guys weren't getting them. They were driving taxis and working on the docks like I did in the off season and doing stuff like they were in good days maybe 10, 12 grand a year. They're making maybe less, not even that much. And all pro, a Pro Bowl level baseball football player like that. So they weren't, that's people. Now you get into wrestling, oh man, I'm gonna be the Rock. I'm gonna have. Before you know it, I'm going to worth $500 million and Learjet. Look, Ric Flair, what he did. Learjets and limousines and was it Space Mountain?
Kiss stealing and wheeling and dealing.
Yeah. Handmade shoes, Gucci man. Gucci suits, and which he got into is his buddy Roger's persona that he took and made real, because he did all that stuff. That's why he's still working at 72.
Yeah, because he spent it all.
Yeah,
he still
before he made it.